Peace, family. Welcome to another episode, Underground Railroad Productions. This is your host, Father Rich. Here
AKA,
with the red pill.
Hold on. AKA Papiana.
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 Papiana. Papiana. Oh, man. Just having a good time here with Red Pill. It's late night. Red Pill's already live on his channel. He been kicking it with his folks over at
Melanin Monday.
Melanin Mondays.
At Decoded Media.
Decoded Media, Melanin Mondays. So shout out to his family. We was trying to go live. I was having technical difficulties, so we're just taping it. But we got a good show, show tonight. Red is obsessed with medieval times. For the last 5 years, when I talk to this brother on the phone behind the camera, this dude is sharp when it comes to these ancient wars, these ancient battles, and everything that was going on in the 1600s, 1500s. I told him one time, I was like, yo, Red, you must have been alive during that time period. You talk about that shit so much, man. Yeah. So, you know, he got the series Fear for Blackamoor Messiah, and the brother talks on it often. But you know what I thought about?
And Fear of a Black Planet with Griff.
Right. Fear of a Black Planet with Griff. Shout out to Professor Griff. The recent thing that just happened in New Zealand, and I thought about you, and I seen the manifesto that this individual wrote, and it made me think about when you always talk about the what is this, the Ottoman Turks versus the Christendom armies and all of that, and I'm saying to myself, damn, is that similar to what we see? Because you know how the TV shows, they mimic history. They say it's entertainment, but it's they're telling you what really went the fuck down. What really went down. So is Game of Thrones telling us some shit that we don't know about our real history and what went down back in the days of Red Pill?
Well, not only is Game of Thrones giving you an alternative, right? They're giving you an alternative viewpoint and they're also giving you a fantasized, romanticized, Romanized version of historical events. That's also what Lord of the Rings.
Right. See? Right.
That's also with what He-Man was giving you. You know, that's also with, you know, so many other there's what's that? Lawrence of Arabia. You know, it's a lot of other productions of theirs, right? They point in that direction. You feel me? So, you know, this is not something that's new, but this show is one of the most popular shows. So
I think it's the most, right?
It's become the most. So what I'm saying is program-wise, right? And relevance-wise, right? And the quote-unquote similarities that this show may have to a story that I can identify as a trigger amongst a group of Europeans who are going on record by saying that they're being triggered and they're being what? They're being radicalized. What is radicalizing them? They're being radicalized by medieval lore. They're being radicalized by the fact that the Crusades have restarted. This is during George Bush's time with the quote-unquote, with the war in the Middle East, right? They're actually being triggered, and they're being radicalized by having a figure who many people say can mimic Hail Hitler in many different ways. A conversation that we had years ago, but I saw this conversation adapted and shared by Michael Moore in the documentary 11/9, it's not the documentary 9/11 Fahrenheit. He put out a new one called 11/9 Fahrenheit. And this documentary, it goes in and it has a comparison of Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler by way of policies and by way of their movements, not through speculation and hyperbole. I'm talking about to the T. So you have a group of people who are being triggered They're watching medieval movies that talk about the White Walkers. The White Walkers happen to be dead white people, right?
Right.
Who have been reanimated, right, by the Ice King, right? The Night King, pardon me.
Right.
They're marching through the wall. What's separating them from the rest of the living, because it's the dead versus the living, what's separating them from everybody is what? It's called the wall.
I didn't know that. I don't watch it. I didn't know that.
I know. I mean, you know, I'm here to let you know.
My girl loved that show.
I know. She should be down here. So she
loved that
could,
show.
yeah, so we could play Black Jeopardy. She should be right here. But the wall is made of ice, right? Build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. Triggers. You understand? Triggers. The conversation of these days, the conversation about the wall with these Europeans, with these, I'm talking about with these red Americans. That's what they call them, red Americans. Those are the Trumpers. They're red states. Red as in blood. They're the red states. They're the ones that bust. They're the shooters. They're the killers. You know what I'm talking about? They go on massacres. They're the Night Riders. They're the invisible empire. They're the White Walkers. But not only are they the White Walkers, in the manifesto of this demon in New Zealand, of this terrorist, right? In his manifesto, it reiterated what we've been talking about, not just us, because I can't take credit off on the shoulders that the giants that I'm aligned with. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talked about this in detail in one of the most prophetic books written in our generation's time, and that's the ISIS Papers. We talk about in the Fear of a Blackamoor Messiah, and we get to it as well in the Fear of a Black Planet series with Griff about the genetic, and we talked about this in our last episode, me and you in the Oculus, right? In Fulton Street and on the train, in the Underground Railroad, when we were talking about, and the video prior to that, where we were talking about the European psychosis and why do they have this quote-unquote bloodlust? Why do they have this fetishization of us? Why do they have this sociopathic, relationship, this fear-based, passive-aggressive, relationship with us? Why do they have this host-parasite relationship where they have to feed and eat and suckle off of our energy, our tears, our blood, sweat, and tears, our energy, our fear? You know what I'm talking about? All of these things. So we have to always keep in mind that the European, he has the only past that he can identify with is the time when everything turned around for him. The times that we're talking about where everything turned around for the European and they began to march forward waving the flag of Christendom, waving the flag of the Holy Roman Empire, waving the flag of Austria, of Germany, of France, of Spain, of Portugal. This is after these people are under the sword of multiple different nationalities. I'll give you a list of them. I'll give you a list of them.
They said King George's son was paying taxes to the Africans?
Yes, I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So from 711, right? From the year 711, right? And this is AD. This is a made up construct. These are made up years. This is not exactly accurate. Based off of what reading or what book you might be reading or what information you're beginning, they'll refer to a certain time period you'll get thrown off because you're thinking they're talking about a certain time, but they're talking about the original 1815 or some other, you know what I'm talking about? Or 1815 might be talking about 1492. So always keep that in mind. But these times, 711 in Spain, I'm talking about the Iberian Peninsula by way of North Africa. Wait, prior to that, during the time of Carthage with Hannibal Barca, this is when things turned around. The Punic Wars, 1, 2, and 3. Those wars, if niggas ever get their hands on a time machine, you go put your bandanas on, you know what I'm talking about? Put your armor on and go and help them in the Punic Wars, because that changes the course of history. It was the Hannibal's loss at the Punic Wars, the Third Punic Wars, when he was defeated by Rome, which takes Rome from under the thumb of black people and helps them, and now they advance to begin to conquer all of the provinces and all of the rest of the empire of this great mighty empire that they just defeat. Then later on you get the Moors in Spain. The Moors go into Spain in 711. They defeat King Roderick. The Visigoths, the Gothic Empire, the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, they push them back. They get stopped by Charles Martel in France and whatnot. Charles Martel, the drink the niggas be pouring out a little for the homies. Yeah, the Martel, and the Martel is called a hammer, right? So he pushes them back and he stops their advancement. But the rest of that area of the Iberian Peninsula is basically subjected, and they're under the yoke. When you're under the yoke of people, you're the vassals of them, right? When you're under the yoke of people, you're basically, you know, it's basically we letting you live if you abide by the rules. Mm-hmm. So Europe, from Spain to Portugal and to parts of Italy and Sicily, were under the rulership of not just black men, not just Africans. You had North Africans, you had Berbers, you had North Africans, you had Arabs or Arabians, which doesn't necessarily denote what people call Arabs from the corner store. Being more, you know, grammatically correct, like Arabians does not. There are darker, niggas is darker than me. Black Jesus. So you had Berbers, North Africans, and you had Arabs advancing into these areas and setting up kingdoms, caliphates, the Umayyad dynasties and whatnot. At the same time, the Ottoman Empire and whatnot, they're building up. The Turkey and whatnot, they're building up their forces. And there's other Islamic dynasties or Islamic, quote unquote, you know, other Islamic caliphates that are not aligned with the Moorish Empire. But the Europeans are under the yoke of Africans and Moors, and throughout the dynasties and throughout the centuries, West Africans come into the play. You dig what I'm saying? The Senegalese, you know, you know, different empires from Nigeria and whatnot, but West Africans take over different empires. So these people are under the rulership and under the kingship and under the sword, and at the same time they're fighting back against black Africans who are darkening their country by the day, who are being seen as superiors in the eyes of a people who were previously in their dark ages. What takes them out of their dark ages? What takes them out of their dark ages is that these groups of people who came in also came in with civilization. They didn't come in as vandals. They didn't come in as rapists. They didn't come in as murderers and plunderers. They came in as civilizers. So Europeans begin to benefit off of the fact that they've been liberated from the dark ages, because there was all kind of Sodom and Gomorrah, antiquity, mindless murder, rape, pillaging. It was just upside down, right? So then you find yourself with the Europeans after they defeat the Moors, and this is only in 1492. And then they have the capitulation. Let me clarify that. I did a whole video where I created a new word the capitulation of the Jews and the Moors that the manifesto talks about. How's that for soothsaying and whatnot? How's that for giving, you know, the no-look pass to show you how this thing is working? Because right in the manifesto, what does he talk about? Exactly what we were talking about in that last segment. So they are infatuated in the time period in which they were being subjugated, in which they were under the yoke, in which they were under the quote-unquote sword of Islamic empires, not just niggas out of Africa, the Ottoman Empire. They have a humongous beef, what is known as the Ottoman Empire's modern day, currently known as not just Turkey, because the Ottoman Empire is in the same places that they're blowing to smithereens to this day. Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Those were parts of the Ottoman Empire. They were paying tribute. They were paying taxes. They were being enslaved by these Ottomans. These Ottomans are also the Marmaludes and whatnot that you see and eat when you go to see the pyramids. The Arabs, the Arabization of that whole region, those are Turks. That's a lot of the quote-unquote Ottomans. It's just that they changed names. Ottoman Empire got dissolved. It becomes Turkey. But the impact that they've had on Eastern Europe is undeniable. They had them under their sword. It's the Battle of Vienna that turned it all around. This is in the late 1300s. This is right before the falling of the 1491 war, where the Alhambra War, where the Moors fall. You dig what I'm saying? So in that region, they were being subjugated. You have white slaves in the millions when the Ottoman Empire, even after they fall in the 1700s, in the 1800s, they're a scourge to all of the Europeans trying to pass through there and do whatever they got to do in the name of commerce, because that's where it was at in the high seas. They're the pirates of the Caribbean and the pirates of the seas at that point. But I'm talking about when they were ruling over Europeans, because remember, Constantinople, right, is Istanbul. That's, you know, they took that from the Christians. They crushed the Byzantine Empire. Like, this is a time period that the Europeans do not want you to know about, because the spell that they have on you, the way that it works and how this shit is set up, is that you are never to see them in bondage. You are never to see them as Slavs. You are never to see them in their pristineness as anything other than what they've sold you. You dig what I'm saying? What you perceive is what you believe. They brokered a deal with a group of people who were also subjugated in Europe. These people are Eastern European Jews. These Eastern European Jews know about all of the history about what had happened.
Where was they at during all of this you just talked about?
Well, Poland, the quote-unquote Polish army, right? This is who defeated the Ottoman Turks at Vienna. The Hamburgs, right? The Hamburg monarchy, remember the people who are now called the royal family in Buckingham Palace, right? The Bavarian army, shout out to True Master who brought us the information about the Holy Roman Empire, right? And the Polish army, they were responsible for defeating the Ottoman army. That was a turning point in history. They said everything changed because if the Ottomans were able to seize Vienna, which was Austria, which is the heart of this whole, it would be how they're taking Westeros, how Jon Snow and all of them are fighting. Different kingdoms are fighting to control the throne. Different kingdoms are advancing on other kingdoms. They're laying siege to the kingdoms. So all of this folklore is being what? They have their version of Afrofuturism. You understand? It wouldn't be called Afrofuturism, right?
Eurofuturism.
I mean, 6 ether futurism. You know what I'm talking about? Dog hair futurism. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but they're creating a version of a future by recreating the past. That's how they're winning. They're manipulating the past through Hollywood, through media, and through all of these other things by changing the course of what happened. They don't want, if they don't tell you the story, nigga, it does not exist in your mind. There's millions of knuckle draggers that can never see white people as slaves. They can't accept that reality. They have not been programmed to see these motherfuckers at the bottom of a ship in chains too. They don't understand the animosity. They don't understand what a crusade is. They don't understand physically this reality that we exist in. Like I said, this is a convergence. This is a time period where everything is folding upon itself. That's why it feels like so many eras are at play at once. This is the Jubilee year. This is 2019. This is historically the ending of a cycle. 2020 is a new beginning of something untold. That's the infinite possibilities. That's clear sight. So this is a culmination of a lot of shit. And if you're here right now doing what we do and doing what it do, you dig what I'm saying? Then you are destined to be who you are. So, I mean, I see it for what it is. I know what they launching. I know how they're moving. They are these. Yeah, go ahead.
It seems like, you know, the powers that be from the U.S. and the Western countries, they buddy with these Middle Eastern powers that be.
Yes.
As far as dealing with them with oil and different things of that nature. Shit, Trump stay in Saudi Arabia. So they don't seem to be that salty with them. You know, if this is some ancient war that's lasting forever, they don't seem to be that salty with them. They stay brokering business deals with them.
Let me explain to you about what happened with the Middle East and why it's not the Ottoman Empire anymore. The Ottoman Empire was the Middle East. The Saudi Arabian Wahhabism, the people who basically hijacked the whole culture, you understand? They're seen as an illegitimate, you know what I mean, in the whole scheme of things. They not rocking with Turkey. They ain't rocked with Turkey since. Turkey lined up with Iran and they not rocking with Iran. Like, there's still parts of the quote-unquote Ottoman Empire. They're at war, actively destroying, pillaging, and exterminating the citizen and the original DNA of the Sudan, Yemen. They succeeded in Syria. They succeeded in Basra in Iraq. They succeeded in...
I'm sorry to cut you off. You just why did they go immediately to the library in Iraq when they
went immediately they went and sacked the antiques.
Yes.
They went and sacked the ancient artifacts.
Yes, the ancient artifacts.
They would talk about a Stargate. Yeah, they was talking about all kind of things taking place and coming online in that ancient region of Mesopotamia. You understand? And they went and snatched the motherfucking real shit that matters, the work.
Damn.
That's the wealth. That is, I mean, you could, niggas like romancing a stone and be talking about natural, you know, you could romance a cave full of stones. But I'm talking about monuments. I'm talking about consecrated big statue type, you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about artifacts that its DNA would tie. I'm talking about the depictions of people who look like me and you in these museums, artifacts that tie us deeper into the story. All of these things began to get removed. They destroyed Timbuktu. They put ISIS on a payroll, and what did ISIS do? ISIS went around and destroyed a whole bunch of temples. They was at war with ISIS in a land where they had the worship of ISIS and what was known as the temple of ISIS. And then they had the people who were known as ISIS destroying said temples. Was that not taking place? The group called ISIS, who Obama will call ISIL, right? The caliphate, who rose up to do what? In their manifesto, they said that we're here to continue the conflict that you started with the Ottoman Empire, that you started when y'all were fighting the Holy War, right? they said that they were creating their own caliphate, meaning their holy state. That's key code word for what the Moors in the rise of Islam in 711, right? So then they call them ISIS. But the same place, the same group that they're calling, they never mention, or they never make the correlation, or they never admit to worshiping a European Hellenized, or what is known as a, what is that? The Ptolemy version of, or Set, which was Isis, who was basically a goddess in Europe and in those other places. So the Arabs that you see now, the Janissaries, the quote-unquote mixed breed Arab Turks and other people who are not of the original, they're not the aboriginals of these places. The governments that you see America cozying up with, some of those regimes are the ones who have hijacked a lot of those places from the indigenous aboriginal people, who you won't even see them on the news. You won't see the darker people. You won't see them depicted. So, of course, they're going to deal with the aliens talk to aliens. And they continue to supply them with, they helped them, they started the OPEC, and they created the Middle East. Remember, they came up with the Middle East.
The term, you mean, the term itself.
Yeah, I'm just saying. These European powers almost colonized that whole area after the World War I. Who fell in World War I? The Ottoman Empire.
When did the term the Middle East come? When was that invented? You know how African American was an invention?
Yeah, that's invented after World War I.
The Middle East.
They start calling parts of Africa the Middle East. This is after the Ottoman Empire falls. So the Ottoman Empire, the World War I, the beginning of these nations coming together to fight the World War, was directly tied into the conflict that they've been having with.
I thought World War I was about white on white violence.
Nah, it was a war about that old guard, you know, being completely destroyed. And then in World War II, when Germany was exterminating the Jews and destroying, you know, all kind of artifacts, you know, all kind of things. But they were riding out with Saint Maurice as their patron saint. I'm just saying, like, it's a lot of shit that people have to, you got to be hip. The reason why a lot of their authors are beasts and whatnot, like Philip H. Dick, dude who wrote the whole series, Fire and Ice, which is Game of Thrones and whatnot. A lot of their futurists, a lot of their quote unquote authors, those authors are students of master teachers, right? And they're able to interpret original folklore or the mythos, or they're able to interpret history, and then they're bringing it into the realm of fantasy. They're bringing it into the realm of make believe, but they're bringing it into the realm of the imagination, where all things. This is the realm in which they seem to be masters of. Okay, they've created industries and they've created wealth beyond the eye can see by doing what? By mastering the industries of the quote unquote make believe. It's an actual industry. It's called a fantasy industry. We don't play in that industry enough. We are only at the consumer based level to that industry. We're not making video games. We don't have our Marvel. We don't got our DC. We're not controlling the subconscious by bending the story and adding elements and doing what? Lionizing, mythologizing. Them niggas took Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and gave you Professor X and Magneto. That's what the Jew is a master of. He studies you, right? And he will take your image and he will anglicize it. He will take your story and he will anglicize it. He will take your story and he will Romanize it. That's how they do. They're telling your story, but in anglicized versions. The Jew who plays the middle of the whole, he's the one that plays the middle ground. He will do the evil, he will do the biddings for the highbrow Anglicized or the Anglo-Saxon and whatnot, who looks down on everyone. The blue blood. In Game of Thrones, it would be the blonde hair, the quote unquote lion crest family, right? Because the Starks are the Wolf Clan. So when you think Wolf Clan, you think Dog Star, you think Sirius, you think Canine, Canis Major, right? Then when you see the Lion, the Leo and whatnot, what do you think? Orion. So, you know, there's different clans. There's different clans on Game of Thrones.
Who would the Moors be in Game of Thrones?
The Moors would be the Starks. The Moors would be Ed Starks in them. The dark-haired, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're the dark-haired. Because, you know, in Europe, you always have to factor in the mixed breed, the amalgamated ones. This Europe, from the days of Hannibal, they were mixing their seed. They were breeding. That's why I try to explain to people, even if you see somebody in your family of a lighter complexion, you have to always rule out that they were necessarily forcibly raped and whatnot. There has been mixed breeding and cosmopolitanism and people of different races being, you know, procreating with each other for a very long time. You know what I'm talking about? Niggas' dicks was getting hard for time immemorial. You know what I'm talking about?
So my great-grandmother, because, you know, as a people, African Americans, we have totally lost who we are. Language, culture, everything, you know. To the point where we eat shit like chitlins. Yeah. You know, our music, our culture, we invented all that shit here. Jazz, the blues,
so that's our magic showing. You seeing our magic right there.
Right. So what I want to ask, so if, say, my great-grandmother had blue eyes, is it safe to say that she was a slave? Light-skinned woman with blue eyes. Is it an assumption for me to say that she was a product of slavery?
That's hard to say, bro. I mean, that's hard to say. What if her black ancestors owned Irish slaves? I don't know. You feel me? What if you know, they were in a place where, you know, there was some settlers and whatnot who were of European descent. What if the Europeans who came over from the second wave of immigrations that populated all of those places in the Midwest and all of those, you think niggas wasn't knocking them down? You know what I mean? You think they wasn't attracted? They came from Europe where they was running behind black men, throwing box, and to this day, you could go there. You pull up on the shores of Europe, my nigga, is going down. Niggas in Paris. You feel me? I'm just saying, I ain't, you know, that's what I heard. You know, I'm just saying, like, they've been attracted to their genetic superiors. You know what I mean? It's a natural attraction. It doesn't change during time periods or based off where there's always going to be a biological, genetic, chemical romance. You feel me? You're magnetic. You're always pulling. People are always like, wow, what's going on? Who is that? You're always emanating a certain kind of light anywhere that you go. That's why people can't blame a group of people who shine their light. When you speak, you spitting out gems. You just dropping jewels and whatnot. You can't blame me for having these niggas dripping if when I talk, you know what I mean? Wherever we went, we shined our light. Yo, oh shit, they're planting food. Let's watch. Oh shit, look how they dance. Let's watch. Oh, look at how they write. Let's study that. Oh, look at the science that they're applying to heating water and then perfuming the whole house on some air conditioner shit. Let's check that out. You feel me? People learn from us just by being in our immediate circle. That's why they love for our women and some of our men to be inside of their corporate structures and whatnot, because of the life that we bring to it. You saw that in the movie Matrix with the battery. You know what I mean?
Right.
They feed off of this carbon. They feed off the especially if they could figure you out and how to play you and what role you can play. Some niggas come with their hat in their hand, or they come crawling on their knees and they let them know the role that they're willing to play. I'm willing to play the role of a eunuch. So they're going to treat you as such. You come to them as a king and you able to stand on that, then you will be received as one. Being in your proper persona gets you far in all time epochs, in all time periods.
That's just how it is. We
have an issue with niggas not being in their proper persona for whatever reason. You know, we try to flesh them shits out on a daily basis. It's 6 million ways to die. It's a lot of reasons. It's not just one. You feel me? At the end of this 400 years, this experiment, this psychological, quote unquote, pressure pot, like you like to say, right? The pressure that we've been through, you know, I can't necessarily say, because you also have to factor in that we have genetic pools inside of our DNA. There were black people with all kind of colorful eyes in history. So I won't necessarily say that. I would tell you, like I would tell anybody else, we, those amongst us who are intellects, need to actively pursue this whole genetics thing and how we could utilize our blood and our DNA to build an accurate map about who we are on a biological, molecular level, so we could show ourselves, man, know thyself, so you can have proof of the journey of your blood. My father showed me his test results, and I was gassed. And I got a new cousin. Do you know why? Because my Uncle Paul, who died in the 80s, God bless him, God, you know, he had a daughter, and we didn't know about her. As a result of my father doing that DNA thing, she popped up and was like family. I'm here. You feel me? So there's something accurate about what's going on. We need to perfect it more. I know that once we get into this whole genome thing, we could take it further, but I want to know who I am. I want to know where my blood comes from. I want to know where my peoples come from. I want to know what states and towns and countries and stuff that they were in, because that's the work that I have to pick up on. So I don't know. I don't know if that answered the question wholeheartedly.
No, indeed.
It's just complex, bro.
You know, when we
it's complex. I've seen every hue of people who look like us in my travels, Rich. Every single shade of every phenotype.
On some Renoko Rashidi shit. You know how he got mad pictures, bro, of just black people from everywhere. Bro. He got mad pictures. Mad
pictures. You know, so I talked about the video that we did recently about the admixture of the brothers and sisters that are in America and how we are considered a newer species. And I wanted people to think in terms of breeding, like how you would think about horses or dogs. And I in no way want to minimalize or dehumanize any of our people, right, or our species by comparing them to animals in the animal kingdom as a horse and a dog, right? But there's such a thing called stock and pedigree, right? And anybody who's breeding a blue-nosed pit is under the assumption, or he's under the knowledge, he knows from a breeder standpoint of view, that in order to maintain that pure bloodline of a blue-nosed pit, who has the characteristics of a fighter, who has the characteristics of a dog that is already trained and listened and well-mannered and things of that nature, that there's an art to that shit. If by any chance, or if at any time, or if by any chain of events, that blue-nosed pit is mixed with an inferior bloodline or an inferior strain or an inferior pedigree of dog, then you're gonna fuck up the whole strain, the whole batch, right? When it comes to horses, what they call thoroughbred horses, right? The thoroughbred horses that people win millions of dollars betting on. The thoroughbred horses that if they show signs of weakness or if they show signs of a losing streak, they'll put them to sleep. Thoroughbred horses that sell in hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's a breeding process for these horses to maintain the genetic integrity of said horses in order for them to even be considered thoroughbreds. Because if they were to mix them with a donkey, or if they were mixed them with an ass, or if they would have mixed them with an inferior horse, right? It would dilute the bloodstream, and it would dilute the quote-unquote genetic pool that these horses come from. So now, with knowing that, and knowing how these people are eugenic scientists, and knowing that they were here to disrupt bloodlines, and knowing that they were here to basically insert themselves in our bloodlines, and knowing that they were here to put themselves inside of our experiences and our families and whatnot. That's why these breeding farms, that's why these sex farms are so important.
Well, I was about to ask you that. You know, we're talking about African Americans and we're talking about a new species. And when you, growing up, when we hear about certain people, certain figures like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You don't get a Michael Jordan, like the U.S. Olympic team went all over the world whooping ass, the Dream Team.
Yeah.
So some people may say, why are the blacks in America physically so dominant than everybody? When you look at Mike Tyson, when you look at the NFL, when you look at our sports compared to the sports across the world, is this a result of breeding farms? Are you saying that we get the Mike Tysons and the Michael Jordans and the LeBron James and the Serena Williams? Because is that a result of the breeding farms throughout our history?
No, I'm not saying that. I can't make that.
Because a white dude made a joke. He was like, oh man, I could imagine the type of baby LeBron James and Serena Williams would have. You know, that shit is in their mind.
Yeah, of course.
So he's like, oh, I could imagine the type of baby they would have. I would pay them millions of dollars to have a baby. Crazy shit, you know, crazy white, you know, weird shit.
Well, they have the science of breeding, the science of creating another life form is something that they're into, you know, and passionately. You know, they're into eugenics. You know, they're into genetics. You feel me? That's something that they actively pursue. The athleticism.
Yeah. Why do we get that here and not anywhere else?
Well, we get other things other places. You
Specifically that, with the athleticism. When you think sports, that's why
soccer, I mean, you go to other places around the world, like in Africa and on the islands and whatnot, there's soccer players that are doing feats of monumental, you know, footwork. And you'd be like, God damn it, you know, what's that about? These are supreme athletes. They're operating, they're in their flow state, you know what I mean? Anywhere where people are locking in. One of the things that America is known for, you know, as an empire, right? This is an empirical, this is a superpower. This country has forged itself, you know, throughout its storied history to be a place of many contradictions, but also a place of, you know, many firsts. So this is one of the first times where the collaboration between these two races, you know what I mean? The black and white race, or, you know, this new race or this new species of people interacting with this other species of people, you know what I mean? And the friction, because in friction, in what is known as conflict, right? Things are created, because in friction, there's a creation process still taking place. In warfare, they said those are great times of creation. That's when things are upgraded. That's when weapons become evolutionized. During times of wars, the biggest times of boom and creation and whatnot.
Chaos magic, is that
it's a form of chaos magic. It's a form of raw creationism. Yeah, but it's definitely tapping into chaos magic. This era, this time, this attention economy, this Web 2.0, this social media era that we're in, this digital age, all of this whole thing, the fact that we're talking about something that somebody took out of the quote unquote digital realm and he made it a real world event, right? It's all chaos magic. Remember, they're saying that he's using meme magic right now. Even when he threw the sign in court, it's all meme magic. He's utilizing synchromysticism when he has all of these 4chan, 8chan cultural references inside of his quote unquote manifesto. When he talks about Candace Owen being the one who radicalized them, they say that that's a form of trolling and whatnot. Everybody who's really in on it.
Candace Owens?
Yeah, he said Candace Owens is the one that radicalized them. He said that Donald Trump is a symbol of basically the Führer, or symbol of their Messiah. You know what I mean? Or symbol of their John the Baptist ushering in this quote unquote holy war. Because like I said, we're not in a religion like that. But there's a large swath of the world or the planet and whatnot that that people in power are steeped in the quote unquote mythology or the prophecies coming true from biblical from that book, and they work together to make sure that they ensure certain things. Or it's so many people believing that shit and shedding blood and sweat and tears that they're actually making that story manifest and evolve, because they shed blood and they feed their egregores and they feed their entities and they send niggas up in the name of their Lord and their saviors and the people that they've been shedding blood in his name, billions, since they started the campaign. So this what we see, especially from these fringe lone wolf fringe people. They're all doing it in the name of that cross. They're all doing it in the name of their quote unquote, you know, this to stay in power, to inflict fear, to continue to subjugate, and to basically you know, capitulate and enslave and defeat these Moors and all of the Asiatics and all of their quote unquote, you know, all of their allies, the Turks, the Arabs, you know, they want smoke with all of them. Even the Russians, the Eastern Europeans, who they look down on, the you know, these quote unquote Bavarians and the UK, they don't look at all Europeans equally. Mm-hmm. So it's very important not just to know the story. What part of how are you alchemizing it? My nigga, how are you tweaking it? Why are we not taking these stories where we might have been taking the L and then we go back and we give ourselves a W? I want to see a movie where you know, some time travelers popped up in the Munich War. You know what I'm saying? In the Punic War, I mean, on a battleship or something. You know what I mean? With some AKs and start wetting shit. You know, all of these things are called Afrofuturism. This is a form of magic. This is a form of mysticism. This is a form of utilizing this powerful weapon and this tool and this mystic, you know, apparatus called the internet and cyberspace to your advantage. You feel me? This is something that people are not doing. They're allowing other people to mold and to create a reality for them. And, you know, they're not fleshing it out. Like, we need Dave Chappelle. No, I'm serious. We need the power of the comedian.
Right.
We need Dave Chappelle. We need somebody who could take a lot of this information. Look who they got. They got Jon Stewart. They got Dennis Miller. They got Bill Maher. Remember, when you satire, when you make fun, when you take the sting out of shit, you know what I'm saying? You're able to make it digestible. They have people who, you know, their satire coming from Saturday, they got Saturday Night Live. You know what I mean? They've weaponized these comedy platforms and these comedy shows to neutralize a lot of serious, real shit that is going on. Bro, white terrorism is the shit is in full. It is in full Monty. If they were to tell the story in a book and you read that shit, you'd be like, well, god damn it, they was killing, they was getting buku busy. But here we are, we carrying on with our everyday because we know that we don't see no evil. I told people before, fam, I don't see them. They white walkers to me. I don't see them. But you have to, going back to the initial point that we were making about drawing the analogy of
Game of Thrones
to what you see. I'm talking about from when Game of Thrones launched. Mm-hmm. When it became a phenomenon. And where? In places where 4chaners, 8chaners, you know, these same people that I'm talking about who seem to be the new invisible empire and whatnot, the trolls, the online trolling, you know, the shit is like Wreck-It Ralph breaks the internet. It's just a virus. It's a whole bunch of them. You know, all of them. That the men going their own way movement. They call them the red pills. You know, Red Pill Black, who's Candace Owen. You know, a lot of the woke red pill shit that don't got nothing to do with anything. A lot of this is distractions. But they are influencing the minds of some very impressionable, programmable, bloodlust thirsty race soldiers who are creating real-time events out of shit that this being discussed and talked about and debated on the internet. They're doing what you niggas never did. How about that? They're taking a lot of the programming from the online stuff, because remember, like I said, the reason why they were infatuated with all of the medieval shit is because that's when they began to gain their power. That's why in Lord of the Rings, this is how evident it is. The army that they were fighting against were being made out of mud. Remember, they were coming out of the dirt. They were coming out of mud. That was the guy with the evil eye and whatnot. You know what I mean? His marching army was this dark army. You know, when they talk about the Turks, you know what I mean? The Turks are coming. The Turks are coming. When they talk about
winter's coming.
Winter's coming. Winter's coming. You know what I mean? Going back to the analogy of the White Walkers, all in America are White Walkers. The Walking Dead. The opiate epidemic has produced a Night of the Living Dead scenario, a zombie apocalypse scenario, and a White Walker scenario, right? In America, where people are doing what? They're in a zombie-like state, walking dead. Then you have the stories that have come out about the negative birth rate and about the acceleration of the mortality rate amongst middle-aged white men who are dying in swaths of numbers. You have the Walking Dead. Because in his manifesto, he addressed that. He talked about the negative birth rate. He talked about the mortality rate. The same shit that we've been presenting for about 2 years to explain to the family the psychosis, the American psycho, the psychosis, the mentality, the narcissistic personality disorder, the neurosis behind the PSYOP campaign that is affecting a lot of people on a lot of different levels. You know what I mean? In a lot of different places. And there's an end game to this shit. Avengers Endgame. There's an end game to this whole goddamn play, to this whole theater, to all of this shit that you see being rolled out. There's an end game.
I got one more question for you, Red. I know it's getting late.
It's getting mad late.
Yeah. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Can I get a definite date before I ask this question for that Patreon video? Can I get a definite date? Are we doing this today's...
Yo, what's today, the 22nd?
Tuesday. Nah, I don't think it's I don't know what it is. The 19th. It's the 19th.
322. 322.
322.
Like 322.
322. It will be on Patreon. 322. It will be on Patreon.
That is a fact.
That is a super fact from Red Pill.
Factory.
To close it out, Red, great, amazing talk, man. Amazing talk, man. I definitely appreciate.
You know what? This is a talk that needs visuals, though.
Definitely, yeah.
This is a warm, like, real talk. Like,
we really. This is a documentary.
We bringing the ball down the court. We're unpacking this thing right here. We haven't even really unpacked. You know, when you come back from Whole Foods with about 10 bags? Yeah. That's an experience. I might even start a YouTube channel just unpacking Whole Foods. You know what I mean? Because it's some goodies that come out of that. But yeah.
So Red, to close it out, being that they ransacked Iraq, they know the prophecy. They know what our ancestors predicted what's going to happen to them. They read the Bible. They know about Genesis 15:13. I forget the exact scripture. They know pretty much when their time is up. With that being said, They know what they're up against with nature. We're dead, but it's like, even no matter how dead we are, they got to battle nature. So they're like, God damn, they got to battle a birth rate. They got to battle the sun. So many elements. Do you think, if we're talking about an end game, their end game is getting the fuck up out of planet Earth? And when we see Trump, the sixth branch of government, being a space force, do you think that's we got Elon Musk, we got artificial intelligence? Is that the next step for them? Because it's pretty much a wrap down here for them, Red?
Well, there's two ways to look at that. One of the ways is going back to what we were talking about earlier with synchromysticism, with the power of projecting yourself into the future when you don't have one. The power of utilizing the apparatus of Hollywood, media, the miseducation, right? Suggestion. They're suggesting to you niggas that they're Star Trekking. They're suggesting that they exist in the year 2800, you know what I mean? In the year 3022. You know what I'm saying? They're suggesting to you, if you agree to that suggestion, if you agree to that perceived reality, that alternative universe that they're trying to project and they're trying to convince you that exists, then God damn it, you damn right that world is going to exist. If niggas put white people on Mars, then they'll go on Mars. You feel me? If you say that you motherfuckers can't even leave this planet, it's impossible because this shit is not a dome, but this is a prison planet, and it's not gonna let certain, you know, it's just not gonna let certain things leave this shit, especially on a frequency that they're on and whatnot. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they're going to escape and inhabit and repopulate a planet outside of this planet, which they are pillaging and destroying and beginning to, you know, and this is crazy that it's even accelerated and it's excelled to such a pace in such a short amount of time. But within the span of their dominion of 500 years, within the rise of the quote unquote crown and the church and the Holy Roman See, they've been able to, you know, accelerate the destruction of this living planet, Gaia or Earth. You know, they've been able to, it's almost as if they're under the young God probably using quote unquote Europeans or white folk to, you know, to carry out its deeds. You know, there's been I don't want to get too far with it about the dark side of the moon and the, you know, I don't want to go too far, but I just really feel like, you know, it's too precise. Like the destruction that they've levied on the planet in the last 500 years, it speaks to a bigger, in my intuition is just telling me that it's too targeted. It's too, they're doing it at such a pace that is so intentional. Yeah. That it's not just a beef with nature. Like that doesn't come from getting sunburned. Right. You feel me? Right. That comes from an alien type of relationship with a place that you really, the way that they go about the earth is like they never knew anything about what was going on. How you just trying to discover shit in the 1800s? What were you doing for how long? Like you got out of kindergarten that long, you know what I mean? Like they're just running, they're still discovering stuff. So that implies, and it speaks to the common sense aspect of this being a new people or a new species, or this is a new experience for them. So I don't necessarily think that they have it in them to go to another planet, but I know for a fact that we have the power in us to send them to another planet. If we collectively agree that they're going to colonize Mars and that they could do it and they're going to set up shop, then they are going to set up shop. That's how they're going to do it. Their rules is to convince us through the means of news media, propaganda through the movies, and other aspects of them. All they're doing is they're utilizing the power of they are assuring themselves. They're utilizing the power of they're being enthusiastic about it. They're invoking and they're affirming their quote-unquote inhabitation of foreign planets, whereas we're not having those conversations and we shy away from those conversations and we won't allow ourselves, and there's something blocking us. Like I said, some of us have a built-in virus firewall system that will interject the God particle, and that's how he snuck inside of you. Go and see The Matrix when Agent Smith got inside of the what? The sacred matrix by way of Cypher. Cypher, right? Who was the traitor, right? Sold out for a piece of steak, right? Like a thought will sell out for a piece of steak and let somebody into her sacred space, into the portal, into the womb. Because remember, Cypher allowed him to get into the portal, get into the womb, that took you into Zion. And I'm not talking about the Blue Devils. Talk to me nice, though. Right? The young God, he know what's going on. So that's the same thing as you allowing somebody like that into a sacred place and plant their seeds. That's Agent Smith. So niggas we got Agent Smiths inside of us. We got to be careful about what we think, because there's somebody inside of us sabotaging us. There's an Agent Smith inside of us trying to kill Neo. How about that? We got wars, we got inner wars, but I can't explain, and these Negroes won't allow us to talk to them about inner planets and outer space.
Yo.
But please know and please understand that the conversation that we should be having is about our colonies on Mars, our existence on different planes of existence. That's the only thing I'm entertaining, because if you ask me, they can't get up there. White men can't jump. You know what I'm talking about?
Indeed. You know, it's funny. I'm about to get a book from King Simon called Inner Space. He posted it on the gram.
Yeah. And
I looked at it. I wanted to read, you know, what it was about. So I went to Amazon. They don't even print the book no more. So I called King Simon. I'm like, yo, I need that from you, man.
That's right.
It was about tapping into your inner space technology. You know, I was watching the dude. Well, I don't want to get too far off topic, but that's a whole nother.
Never get too far off topic.
You heard of Nassim Haramein, right?
Not yet.
You got
about him right now.
Yeah, that dude. He's a little boring. You know, he's a little boring, but he's sharp.
Rich the Kid is in the building.
Rich the Kid is in the building. He woke up. Rich the Kid is in the building.
Rich the Kid. I can't stop smiling, yo. Well, go ahead.
Red, you know, I said that was the last question, but you know how I do.
What do you think, bro?
You know, you was talking about magic, and they're not getting to Mars unless we propel them. They need our magic. And then they use our magic, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're able to build a building, or they're able to come up with an invention, or they put something in a movie. We think about it, and then it happens. Is that the same thing that we're taught? We were taught for many years that voting, your vote doesn't count. You know, within the grassroots conscious community, things like that. They're like, nigga, your vote, that shit is a selection, not an election.
Yeah.
The president. So, do you think that our ballot, if we're dealing with magic, is us doing magic, and that whether that paper matters or not, on another level, on a subconscious level, the fact that so many of us want a certain white man in there, he's able to get it in. That's why he goes hard with campaigning and all that, because he knows even if that paper ballot doesn't mean nothing, our intention is going to help him get in there. Red Pill?
The easiest example that I can use for you right now is the example that needs no introductions. There was a man with melanin who came out of the womb of a white woman. Theoretically, they would call him a white man, right? That man goes by the name of Barack Hussein Obama. If you can access your memory bank, because a lot of our memories have been, you know, kind of inception and tweaked with ever since 08 or 07 for that matter. But if you could go back into time and tap into that, because there was a shift that happened. Nobody can tell me that a shift didn't happen, because I cannot access 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s like that. I can't go back to like pre-Obama. It's a whole nother. I'm talking about, that was a whole nother plane. The way that we injected enthusiastic Negro magic and spiritual magic, and we were turned on and we were divinely sparked by the entity known as Barack Hussein Obama. in his run. Nobody, I don't want to talk politics with nobody, because the person that you might have saw in the run, you can't necessarily prove to me that that was the same person who was in that 8 years of presidency. You know what I mean? I'm just saying energy-wise. I'm just saying spirit-wise. We was introduced to a spirit, and we was introduced to a person, and we was introduced to a movement that when we locked in on that shit and we was able to see a vision of homies sitting in that Oval Office, we made that shit happen. We manifested that. There was no way he was going to lose that night. Not with the kind of energy that was put behind that man. That would be the highest form of collectivism and, you know,
Black collective consciousness.
Black collective consciousness. You know, not to say that we haven't done anything else prior to that, because we could come up with multiple examples, but
in modern times?
In modern times, where we can all agree.
Right, okay.
Where I'm not reaching.
Right.
Where if we're honest with ourselves, just if we, because I went to the inauguration. Okay. Nigga, I went to the inauguration. Me and my guy G from Harlem, who had the Obama blinged out stuff.
You said that was your son's first word.
My son's first word that he spoke was Obama. My son is born November 7th, 07. So my son, right, sees everything from the perspective, from the vantage point of the rise of Obama, the rise of a Moor.
Right.
We call him Barack Obama. From the rise of and he's an archetype. It's not personal. It's not about him giving the LBGT the right to do, you know what I mean? It's the archetype is what you represent on a mythological, you know, archetypical stand. Everybody has an archetype. Everybody fits a certain kind of mold historically and things of that nature. So he would fit the Othello, Moorish. You know what I mean? He's a statesman. He's a lawyer. He's a constitutional lawyer out of Chi-Town. You know what I mean? The home of this whole black Islamic thing. You know what I'm talking about? His name is Hussein. You know what I mean? Barack been at the knee. You know, it's so much things. But what he represented, that's what my son was able to be enveloped with. So he don't know nothing about being scared for his life and the whole Skittles and all of that, and you know, basically saying, am I next? How could you go from being a child saying I want to be the next president to am I next? Is that not a spell? Is that not a psyops? Is that not a changing of reality?
You know, when Obama came into office, that's when we got all them shootings, man.
That's what I'm saying is you got to understand how these rituals go down, these Masonic rituals. These fear tactics. When they were burning and killing our people in the South, you had black Republicans that were running things. You understand? When they went night riding, when they went riding against the quote unquote Moors in the Reconquista in Spain, when we were in power, they were doing that. They were killing our people and bonfiring them and doing all of that. You feel me? This is how this thing goes down. So I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that you're surprised.
Indeed. Well, like I said, this is an instant classic right here. Thank everybody on Instagram and YouTube for tuning in.
That's right.
And no, you on YouTube. You're not on Instagram. You're on YouTube.
I'm
right?
on a tube.
Yeah, you on YouTube, right?
500 people in.
Oh man, you
something in the Chizat.
Damn. Did they hear my questions or was they able to hear me?
Y'all heard his questions, right? Yeah, they heard his questions.
All right, close it out for me, Red. Close it out for me, my brother.
Yeah, like I said, Melanin Mondays is back. Third Eye Thursdays is back. Know the Ledge Media is the channel. Tough Talk Tuesdays with Blue Pill. That's in the building. Make sure y'all subscribe. Make sure y'all sign up. We got some things that will be rolling out. You should listen. You should subscribe to the channel so you catch all of the rollouts. There's a lot of things coming up. Spring is here. It's time to spring forward. We got a lot of things that we've been working on and building and whatnot. So it's rollout time. Facts 2020 is coming. Y'all need to become Patreons and find out about that. A solution-based initiative, bookmarking the year of 2019 and starting out anew on 2020. Facts 2020 is the future. It's time to move forward with some solutions. It's time to address a lot of the things that are taking place with a more progressive approach. You feel me? Shout out to Omarion You feel me? Shout out to all of the brothers and sisters who are out there doing their thing, who are, you know, who are.
He's really about the knowledge.
He's about the knowledge, you know what I mean? He's about that knowledge, you know what I'm saying? So the people who are really about that life, and they not just doing it for the fanfare, but they serious about the path of man, know thyself, and to evolve and to grow into the gods and the goddesses that they are. Salute to all of y'all. We gonna link up, and we got some big things coming up. twinthealbum.com, kingscounty.bigcartel. Make sure y'all get this drip. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, this is the couture world, so you know this costs you a good penny. You feel me? This is that Garvey bling and whatnot. So pop-up shops is coming. More lecture presentations is coming. We're gonna have the Vegas event. I think we're gonna show it through Rich's channel when we went in Las Vegas and did the lecture from blackface to blueface. Shout out to all my Tatianas out there, Papianas. Yeah, buzz down. I'm out.
Peace.
All right, one.
Rich the Kid said peace.
Rich the Kid. Bleh.